Hi, friends. I have something to tell you. This is really hard for me, but I'm a craft hoarder. I cannot stop buying craft items. Keep telling myself that I'm not going to buy anything else until I use up everything that I have, and then I fail. A lot. So, one thing that I buy a lot of is wooden things to paint. You may have noticed this. So, the drawer where I keep them is getting pretty full. Did I really just pull the whole drawer out to dump it on my desk? Yes, I did. And it doesn't fit in the frame. So just ignore the mess that is usually out of frame. So in this drawer, I have a ton of random banners, planks of wood, signs. But what I'm going to paint is this. This is a set of nesting dolls. If you've never seen them before, nesting dolls are a set of wooden pod people that fit inside of each other. You open the first one and surprise! There's another little parasite inside. Then you open that one and hello! There's another one. And so on and so on. This particular set has 5 dolls. And here I'm trying to show scale.
Real scientific.
Biggest one is this big, and the littlest one is this little. Let me just pop them all back in and give them brain damage. One thing that I noticed when playing around with these is that they are really hard to open and close. And that I'm a child. So I'm going to throw down another sheet of paper and sand the little lip thing until they fit. I can't do anything about my maturity level. I didn't want to sand these too much and have the dolls fall apart because it was too loose. So I stopped to check every once in a while and only sanded until they just fit, but I didn't have to fight with them. I also noticed this sort of chewed up area here on the middle one, so I gave that a little sandy sand too. Now, before I paint, I want to protect the little lip on the bottom half. If I get paint on it, it might get too tight to fit, and I defeat all of the work I just did sanding. So I'm going to tape this area off on all 4 of the ones that open. And then I'm going to do a coat of gesso. We've all seen this before, so let's just speed right through it. With all of the pieces prepped, I'm going to start with the smallest one. Because while it's going to be the simplest design, it's also going to be the hardest to paint. Because it's so darn small. When I was trying to come up with ideas for these, I went through a lot of random themes. But I'm still in a bit of a Barbie fever, so I ultimately decided to theme it after other toys I had when I was a kid. So this little one is going to be a Glo-worm. I know we had a Glo-worm floating around our playroom when I was a kid, but since it's a baby toy and I don't remember being a baby, I'm not actually sure if it was mine or my sister's. They still make Glo-worms now, but I like the original face. The one that looks like a geriatric turtle. So that's the one that I'm going to attempt. Although, painting a face on a doll this small, that's rough. After a lot of finagling, he's looking okay-ish. So let me add a few other details. And many tiny touch-ups, and that's one done. This next one is going to be a little people. Not a little person, a little people. One of these. They for sure still make little people, but they've gotten progressively fancier, and the ones I played with when I was little look like this. I'm pretty sure they were old even when I was playing with them, based on the dates that I can find online. But they are one of the things that I remember playing with the most as a kid. I used to call it playing people, and each one of them was a very specific person. This one was always me. So that's the one that I'm going to paint. However, this one is going to be blue. I wanted a nice range of colors, and the Glo-worm is already very green. I'm keeping the doll a little cracked around the middle so that I don't paint it closed. But for second coats and tidying up lines, I did pop it apart completely. This slightly darker blue at the bottom is meant to be a sort of shadow, where the bottom of the peg is smaller. Then I took the tape off and put the doll back together for the details. This version of Little People is pretty simple, but she does have a fancy ruffle around her neck. She also gets an outline around her hair and her simple little face. And she's done. Now, you may have noticed that for the sketches for each of these, I'm using this yellow pencil thing. This is actually a chalk pastel. I saw someone recently use this for sketching, and I thought it might be easier to paint over than graphite. For this middle doll, I'm going to do a troll doll. Please tell me everyone knows what a troll doll is. Not these. These. I don't know if I actually played with these so much as I sort of had them and collected them. Their hair was the nastiest, scratchiest, fuzzy whatever, and it always got gross if you did anything besides display them. But they were a thing when I was a kid, and they were everywhere. Trolls were every color of the rainbow, but this one is going to have bright neon orange hair. And no matter how hard I try, I cannot color correct this to show accurately. He's also going to have an orange jewel in his belly, which, if I remember my troll lore correctly, that makes him magic. Because this one is a little bigger and a little less simple of a design, the details are really important. Especially since 2/3 of the doll is flesh, so I tried really hard to get all the little wrinkles and rolls exactly where I wanted them. I had a 95% success rate. I do touch that up later, but I was eager to move on. This next one is, well, honestly, it ends up being my least favorite out of all of them. It's the one that I have the most struggles with, and it ends up looking really weird. But this doll is going to be a Beanie Baby. I assume everyone knows what a Beanie Baby is. And I never actually played with these. These were for collecting so I could be rich someday. Still waiting on that one. Specifically, I chose this Beanie Baby. I feel like the bears were the most recognizable of the beanies, and this one seemed like it would be the most fun to paint. The colors in this picture are kind of pukey, so I'm going to punch them up with some neon. If you're new here, first, hello, welcome. But second, I very rarely know what I'm doing. I tend to just make it up and hope for the best. Obviously, I don't know how to paint furry tie-dye. I'm just slapping on splotches of color. I am trying to keep within the lines of my sketch. These are where the bear is sewn together. And you know how when fabric gets sewn together, the pattern doesn't always match up? That was my thinking behind not splotching the color over the stitch lines. Also, I wanted to keep them sort of visible for later. After 2 coats, this was looking really bright and kind of garish. Plus the blobs of color weren't looking very tie-dye at all. So to tone down the colors a little, I mixed a little bit of white paint with a lot of bit of water and painted on a sort of hazy wash over the whole thing. I'm satisfied with that. At least enough to move on to the lines. Beanie Baby bears have this very specific face with the Y-shaped stitching, so that part looks good, but the ear placement is tragic. I don't know what I was thinking with that. And I wasn't really sure what to do for his feet, because they sort of have sock-like feet, and I did this. So I guess he's kind of sitting, but also he has legs coming up from his feet. Are his knees bent backwards? I don't know, let's just finish off his face before it gets weirder. Last, I added his little rainbow peace sign. Ugh, his head bothers me so much. He looks like a seal. Let's just move on. This last one is my favorite. Probably because it's the most sentimental to me. This is going to be a Popple. No one ever seems to know what a Popple is, so this is a Popple. They're these cute little multicolored animal things with a pouch on their back. You could turn the pouch inside out and it would wrap over their hands and feet and they'd turn into a ball. Popple was my guy. Yes, his name was Popple. I slept with Popple every night for far longer than I'm willing to admit. And I still have him, but he kind of fell victim to one of my dogs and lost his nose in the attack. So he's hidden safely away until I can figure out how to repair him. This is the specific Popple that I had. He's called Prize Popple, I guess. The sheer amount of tries that it took to mix the right shade of pink for his body is pretty embarrassing. For all of the little details on these dolls, I used the smallest paint markers that I had. For some, I was lucky enough to have the right color in a Posca marker, but for some I had to use these Thule art markers. Now the paint in these markers is great, but the tip. God, I hate these stupid plastic tips. I cannot keep the paint flowing. I had to stop like every 2 millimeters or so and draw on a piece of paper to get it working again. I pushed through filming this, but I desperately wanted to just turn off the camera for this, because I knew it was going to be painful to watch. Off camera, I did touch it up and fatten up the lines. Popple's face is actually the one that I was the most stressed about, because it's the face that I know the best. If it's off, I'm definitely going to notice. Ultimately, after a few touch-ups though, I think it came out pretty good. I outlined his ears and finished off his tail. And then it was time for his hair. Mint condition, never loved Popples have pretty fuzzy hair, but once they're cuddled and inevitably washed, their hair kind of pills a little bit. Plus, in the Popple cartoon, all of their hair is curly. This is too much Popple information. Long story short, Popple has curly hair, and that's what I'm drawing. Also, in case you're wondering, they did try to reboot Popples a while back, but they're monstrous, and we don't talk about that. Last, I added a cute little highlight to his eyes, and then decided to do that for a few of the other ones. So here they are all painted. I'm trying to lay them all out aesthetically. Got it. Ugh. Sometimes I wait to varnish items until after the video is done, because I want the paint to have a lot of time to dry. But the flesh-colored paint I used is this really chunky brand, and it's looking kind of gross. So I decided that I couldn't show that as the final product. Now, I usually like to give the paint a good week to dry and cure before I varnish, but this had about 36 hours, so I'm being really careful to only run my brush over each area once. I don't want the paint to smear. And here they are all done. I don't know about you, but I love them. I mean, not this guy, he's just okay. But the other ones I love. It was really gratifying to be able to turn really generic objects into something recognizable. And I had so much fun revisiting all of the things I played with as a kid. What do you think? Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.